Hello, I'm Arthur, and this is my response video to the topic of the week. I've been following topics for a while now and always wanted to do my own response. And I think this is a very good one to start with. This week's topic, Vince asks, what's your favorite army? Pretty straightforward, and I initially thought I would have one easy answer for this. But as I started thinking about it, another of my old armies popped in my mind as if to say, don't forget me. And thinking about it, I have a really strong case for both of those armies. So I'm going to cheat and talk about two of my favorite armies, especially since they're from two different games. Starting with my first love, a forgotten love, but I still love it, is Sisters of Battle. I started the wargaming hobby with 40k. I had two good friends who always saw me oogling over their models and they brought me into it. And at the beginning, it was kind of overwhelming with there being, 15 or so different armies, and one of them, Space Marines, has a ton of subdivisions among that, and you could probably do the same with Chaos. And that was a lot to take in. But my friends gave me a description of every army in the game, and after listening to that, two armies kind of floated to the top of what I was most interested in, and that is Eldar, the Space Elves, and Sisters of Battle. But what really sealed the deal for me, at least for those two armies, was actually the Orc Codex. In the introduction of many of these old codexes, they try to sell you why you should be playing this army. And for the Orcs, they go over the good high points of the strength of the army, as well as mentioning that if you just kind of want to have fun, this is the army for you. But it also had a line in there about saying if you want a direct quote, if you want a straight-laced army that takes itself serious, try Eldor or Sisters of Battle. That right there told me I picked the right armies for 40k. Even though it's kind of phrased as an insult, that just reinforced in me that, yep, I picked the right ones. So I went all in on them. And while I actually played Eldor more often, mainly because one of my friends was also an Eldar player, and I could play that army without having to proxy. Sisters of Battle was the one that really resonated with me. By the way, this Witch Hunters Codex was the official Sisters of Battle Codex at the time I was playing. Technically, Witch Hunters and Sisters of Battle are two different groups, but during this time, a lot of the lesser known armies got stuck together in one book. Now, you could play them as two separate armies with this book, or you could play them as one unified force. And I kind of did a mix between the two of those. Well, either Sisters of Battle or mix. Almost never played just pure Witch Hunters. Now, I really like Sisters of Battle because they are battle hardened female warriors who won't hesitate to shoot their enemy in the face if they feel they're any threat to mankind, no matter what it is. And considering 40k is a setting that there are numerous nightmarish creatures that love to eat mankind for breakfast, that says a lot about them. In fact, you know, in a way, you could say Sisters of Battle is like a mix between Space Marines and Imperial Guard, or whatever it is they're called right now. Their strength and toughness is the same as IG, which makes sense because they're both normal humans. But everything else about Sisters, the weaponry they use, their martial skill, the types of vehicles they use, they're all far closer to Space Marines than it is to IG. Which means Sisters are more like genetic engineered super soldiers than they are to conscripted military soldiers. And I think that's cool. Now, yes, the Space Marines are much better at close combat. Then again, they're super soldiers. But the the skill at shooting things, the type, how much that's gonna hurt when you get hit, Space Marines and Sisters of Battle are almost identical. And considering, at least when I played the game, Sisters were a third less the points for one sister for one Space Marines, I feel that's a big bargain. When the amount of the skill it takes to hit something is the same, the amount of damage they take is the same, and even your save is the same. That's a big savings. So that's one of the reasons why I really love Sisters of Battle. And Faith. Faith is one of those things that is so uniquely Sisters, and I love it for it. If you don't know what Faith is essentially a limited resource that Sisters can use to temporarily give buff at certain points of the game. It's it's an ability that no other group has in the entire universe. It's not psychic, so anything that does anything that interact with psychic abilities does not affect Sister's faith powers. The exact mechanics of how faith power works would depend on the system being used. I know they have updated Sisters twice since I really played them, and I know at least in one of those updates, the faith mechanic is completely different from what I'm used to. That said, faith has always been something that Sisters don't really need, but it's the icing on the cake to just give them the little extra buff that makes them truly extraordinary. And I really like faith powers just because of that. Even if they come up with a new system for faith that is truly terrible, just because faith is so has so much character with Sisters, I would probably just love it anyway. Another thing that helps connect me to Sisters is the fact that I really like wing imagery in my fantasy. This may be from either angels, demons, and I suppose dragons too, but I just really like the look of wings. And Sisters have two units that you can conceivably model wings on. The first is their special character, the Living Saint, Saint Celestine, and even in this book, they modeled her with wings. Also, just in general, she's a cool special character because even as an army wide, they're not good at close combat. She can hold her own against most of the close combat monsters in the game. Also, the fact that even if you kill her, there's a chance she might just come back. So I really like her. But also, the unit of jump pack girls. Even their name, the Seraphim, I just find cool and just screams to me to be modeled with wing-shaped jetpacks. So that's just something else that just appeals to me. And there's one last thing that helps demonstrate for me that Sisters of Battle should be considered my favorite army. And that is the fact that I only own one book from either the 40k universe or the Warhammer Fantasy universe. And that one book is Faith and Fire, the novel based on Sisters of Battle. Now, I have a lot of novels in my collection, and I haven't read them all, but I have read this. It's been a while since I read it, so I don't exactly remember a lot about the story, other than I did enjoy it, though probably a good deal of that had to deal with the fact that it was about the Sisters in Battle. Now, there are several reasons why I initially was hesitant to call Sisters of Battle my favorite army. And a quick look at most of what I own will show you why. As you can see, I've never really collected that much of Sisters. And what I do own is either not assembled or not painted or not finished painted. And a part of that was because back when I collected Sisters, money was really tight, and Sisters of Battle is a really expensive army. But I also had another reason why I never really finished much, and that is because eventually I left 40k. It's been many years since I was an active 40k player, at least 6 or 7, if not more. There have been a few times where I've come back to play a game or two, but It's essentially I just been out of it for a very long time, and I didn't see the effort, despite the fact that I really love Sisters, to put in a lot of effort into painting an army I don't for a game I don't play anymore. Though if I did come back, Sisters of Battle will be the reason for me. But that's kind of problematic given that the fact that their current codex is digital only. And I personally do not own a device that was made to read a digital codex. But as you can see, I have a lot of passion for Sisters, and that's essentially my case for Sisters of Battle being my favorite army. With that said about Sisters, now let's move on to the initial army I consider to be my favorite, and that is Chaos, or in particular, Warriors of Chaos. Which is kind of ironic since I started with 40k and the armies I played over there, Sisters, Eldar, and Blood Angels, were all enemies of Chaos. But when I came over to fantasy, the main reason for that was one, I enjoy fantasy in general more than sci-fi, and two, I wanted magic because I'm a magic guy in fantasy. So I asked my friends, like, what are the armies with the best magic phase? And they gave me a list, and Chaos was on there. And while I was doing my research, I've heard someone mention that when you play an army in fantasy, you need to really like painting the core, because the core is really important. So I took that to heart and went to Games Workshop's website and found the core of all the armies I was considering. And there was one army or one unit of core that not only did I go like, yeah, I don't mind painting a lot of those, it was the only one that actually excited me, and that was the Chaos Warrior. So I went with Warriors of Chaos, and that's been 90% of what I played in the time of when I play fantasy. And the big thing that sold me was the Chaos Warrior, because just the Chaos Warrior just looks really awesome to me. And it had a decent magic phase. Or the Chaos Sorcerer has decent magic. Now, after playing it on my own, my opinion of Chaos magic is not as great as I think I was led to believe, but oh well. I still enjoyed the entire army overall. I still don't have everything I want painted, but I do have a lot assembled. So much that in sometimes I kind of shock myself how much I have. Some of it still needs to be assembled, but I can easily play in 8th edition at least. 2500, 3000. Maybe when I actually finish everything, probably could get up to like 4000 points, which is pretty significant. Now, the case for my favorite army belonging to Chaos is that it is the army that I played the most games with. It's also the army I invested the most in, along with having the biggest collection. It is what I named my blog and business after, and it's also the army I developed the most storyline behind. Now, I did come up with stories behind my 40k forces, and I did that almost as soon as I got into 40k, while it took me a couple of years to develop a story for my chaos stuff in fantasy. But I think thanks to my blog and campaigns, I've just developed chaos storylines far beyond what I've ever done with 40k. Though with all that said, it's kind of funny I'm now drawing a blank on what else to say about chaos in this video, especially compared to what I had to say about sisters. Perhaps that's because maybe a little bit more passionate about sisters, or perhaps with chaos I just have too much to talk about, and all the topics are crowding each other out. Wherever the case, I think I'll end the video here. So, my two favorite armies, Sisters of Battle and Chaos. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.